Welcome to chapter 9. It is regarding classes. So there is a theory over here which can be read, but I'll cover only the code snippets. So first let's focus at scopes and namespaces. Okay. Let's say there is a scope test function block starting from here till here, and we have variable by name spam, and it is initialized with test spam, and then three function blocks within scope test like do local, do non-local, and do global. Each one of them assigning again having a spam variables inside them. So this is a regular spam variable, this is non-local, this is global. Now when we say do local, right? Okay, this spam within do local function gets assigned value local spams. However, this test spam is unaffected. Okay, so when you print look after local assignment, after do local, after do local, when you print after local assignment spam, okay, this same test spam gets printed over here. Okay, next when you do non-local, what happens is spam non-local variable gets assigned a value non-local spam. Okay, so when you print the spam, since we have altered non-local spam, that gets printed here. Okay, and then what we do is we call do global. However, this global variable is global. It is not only confined to this function block. We are assigning a global spam since this is a global variable. Okay, and when we say after global assignment spam, right? So still we get non-local spam only. Okay. However, when you come outside this function block and when you try to print a scope test, okay, in a global scope, spam is we print global spam. Okay, because this is once you come outside of this, it is global. I summarize. Okay, there is a local, non-local, global. So when you print a local, like this value would have got assigned within the function block. So this value is unaffected. Okay, so test spam gets printed. And when you say non-local assignment, when you do, okay, that get when you print here, you get non-local. Okay. And same is the case, right? When you say after do global, when you print spam, again this value will be non-local only, so that gets printed. However, when you come outside the scope of this function block and when you try to print spam, you get a global value, that whatever you would have assigned global variable value, that is global spam. Okay. Now let's look at classes, how the class looks like. There will be a keyword class followed by a class name. This keyword has to be small case, all small case class, followed by whatever class name you choose and multiple statements, okay, within a class block. So a typical class could look like this: class my class. Okay, the data variable of this class my class 1 2 3 4 5. Now when you do this thing, this I gets shared between all the objects of my class. Okay, so yeah, and then you could have a function block like this: def f self. Okay, return hello world. Okay, so it just returns a hello world, but this this data variable is shared across all instances of my class. Okay, the way to initialize it is x equal to my class. And then we have a special method called underscore underscore init underscore underscore in the bracket self. This is constructor. Okay, when you set data equal to empty list you are assigning. So if you want to invoke a constructor of a class, this is the way. Yeah, this is example here again. Let's look at a class complex. Constructor we are calling, real part and imaginary part we are passing, and then self is this pointer. So it is complexes r is equal to real part, complexes in I equal to imaginary part. So when you initialize like this, complex 3.o minus 4.5, and when you print x.r and x.i, like real and imaginary parts get printed. Okay, those are 3.0 and minus 4.5. Okay, now what you could do is like if like x object is having a counter variable, data variable, like you could initialize equal to 1 and x less than 10, x counter is equal to x counter star 2. Okay, so it goes on getting multiplied every time with the value x counter star 2, and like when we exit the loop, last value multiplied by 2 gets printed, and then you could do del x counter. So the way to invoke methods of the objects is like x dot f. Okay, the normal convention. So this x dot f can be assigned to xf, and you could just say xf, x dot f gets invoked indefinitely in this case here, while true. Okay, now let's look at classes and instance variables. Okay, like as we were talking, like let's say there is a class dog and it has a data variable kind equal to canine, and then like there is a yet another variable called name, and we are taking it in the constructor of a dog and assigning that value to this name. Okay, so when you do like this, d is equal to dog Fido, the D's name gets assigned value Fido. E equal to dog buddy, E dot name gets value buddy. Okay. However, like this kind is equal to canine is initialized, so this gets shared. So when you say D dot kind, you get canine, E dot kind, still you get canine because this canine is shared. Okay. However, when you say D dot name, like Fido gets printed, D dot E dot name, when you do buddy gets printed. These are unique. Okay, these two are unique. This is shared, kind is shared. Yeah. Now you should never do something like this. Tricks if equal to, if let's say a list you are maintaining, and if you just say equal to empty list, whenever you append, right, like this list goes on getting appended across all instances of dog. Okay, so now let's test it. D equal to dog Fido, E equal to dog buddy, hat trick rollover, play dead. Okay. Now, when you say one is hat trick, you are calling over D, and next you are calling hat trick over E. But when you try to print D tricks, okay, both gets printed over here, rollover and play dead. Why? Because this incorrectly mistaken way, mistake in a mistaken way, this is initialized to empty list like this. How to avoid it? To avoid it, what needs to be done is like this is the way. What needs to be done is self.tricks. So this tricks is confined to that particular object, and you can initialize with empty. Now, if you do like add trick rollover, E add trick play dead. If you just say D, only rollover gets printed. When you say E, play dead gets printed. Next, like yet another example. Let's say there is a warehouse class and it has purpose and region. Okay, like and variables are assigned with storage and vest. Now, if you can create an instance of warehouse and print purpose and region, storage and vest gets printed. Okay, and again you create a yet another instance W2 equal to warehouse, and here you are just setting region. Okay, region equal to east. Purpose is not set, but when you try to print purpose, okay, like storage gets printed here. See this, whatever is assigned here, like that gets shared and storage gets printed. Yeah, and there could be a function definition outside the class like this. F1 is outside the class, which you can make use within the class. F equal to F1, like now F like exactly imitates F1, and you could have G function G, and you could assign G to H. Okay, so now F behaves like F1, H behaves like G. Okay, this is yet another important concept over here. Like this is a constructor, that is fine. Like there's a method with the name add. This add you can make use in other function. Like add twice is making use of add. Like this add. Next important concept is inheritance. Like we have already encountered this. Whenever you are inheriting, like there should be class keyword, okay, and then the derived class name, and inside the round brackets, okay, base class name should be there, okay, from which you are inheriting. So class derived class name is mod name base class name. In this case, derived class name is derived from mod name dot base class name. And unlike a few other programming languages, multiple inheritance is supported in Python. If you want to do multiple inheritance, all you need to do is you need to pass multiple base objects comma separated. Next is private variable concept. So in some cases, what you want to do is you want to maintain a private variable. In that case, what you need to do is underscore you need to put before the variable name. Okay. So what it is saying is at least two leading underscores. Okay, and at most one trailing underscore. Okay. So this is the way you need to do. And these kind of variables are private to in this case update is private to mapping. Now what you need to do is here what he is doing is here he is creating a items list within mapping, and update iterable. When you call update iterable, this item list, right, whatever you have created here gets appended with whatever value passed. Now let's say you invoke update with keys and values. So you are creating an item by zipping keys and values, and then you are appending it. This is the way to call item list append. Append I with this item. Okay. Yeah. Next is you could create a empty class like this class employee pass, and then you could create a instance John of type employee, and next what you can do is John.name equal to John Doe, John.department equal to computer lab, John.salary equal to 1000. You started with empty class, and you went on adding data variables within that class like this. Next is iterators. We have encountered it on multiple occasions. So for elements in 1, 2, 3, print element 1, 2, 3 gets printed. You could also iterate over tuple. Okay, you could iterate over a dictionary. You could iterate over string. You could iterate over a file line by line. Those are the cases. Okay. Now let's say S equal to ABC. You create IT equal to iter R. When you say IT, string iterator is created, whatever is created gets printed. Next IT A, next IT B, next IT C. Okay, now when you try to do next again, there is nothing, so it says stop iteration. Exception you get. Next is, okay, if you want to reverse something, what you do is iterator for looping over sequence of backwards. How do we do it is first what we do is index we initialize with last character length data. Let's assume some string is getting passed to this class. First we are initializing it to the last one, and iter is equal to self, and then underscore next underscore. When you call this, right, the way we are doing it is if it is 0 we stop, otherwise we reversely in a reverse direction we go on decrementing by 1 every time, and we return self.data self index. So we start to from end, if let's say somebody has passed span, we start at M A P S. Next is generators. Okay, another concept. So def reverse, what we are doing is index in range length data -1 last but one character, and then what we are doing is we are decrementing every time till this index becomes -1. You remember range, how it works? The starting value is the last value. We go on decrementing every time, traverse from right to left till -1 is reached. So golf gets printed as flog. So these are some of the generator expressions. So like sum of I star I for I in range 10. Like, we are creating squares and summing them, that is 285. And let's say there's a x vec 10, 20, 30, 753. What you could do is, like, sum of x star y, okay, for xy in zip, okay, so for 70 gets multiplied, then 100, and then 60. So it is like, 260, okay. Sorry, 90. This is 100, this is 90, this is 70, 260 gets printed. Now let's say there is what we do is word for line in page. First, what we do is we take lines in a page, okay, and words within that line, okay, and then set. So this is only unique words get returned. Okay. Now, if you are interested in a student GPA, match student GPA for in items, like here the items are student in graduates. Like there is, let's say there's a list of students with name graduates. Like, for student in graduates, like, student GPA, student name max. Okay, so maximum GPA of one of the student, like, whoever scored, that gets returned in valedictorian. Now next is, like, data I for I, like same concept over here. We start from end, okay, decrement by 1 every time till we reach -1, so it is flog. Let's see what is the next. Yeah, we covered essentials of Python. We'll cover basic to standard library. That is part 1, part 2. There are 2 parts, and after that, like, let's jump to practical examples. Thank you.